Isaiah 38:19. It is the living who give thanks to you. A father tells his sons about my faithfulness. My dad told me about God's faithfulness in his life, and I want to pass that on to you. And so I've asked my father to come here and share his story. So the man beside me here is my father, Everett J. Gale. Howdy. My dad's a little shy because, you see, he never had an 8th grade education. He quit school before he finished the 8th grade. You see, he was born in 1921. You historians out there, what was going on in the 20s? What happened in 1929? You're way too young, right? It was the Depression, the Great Depression. Nobody had money. They were broke. So my dad had to quit school and go to work for a neighboring farmer so that he could get food for his family. So my dad never had a lot of education. So Father, don't feel bad, okay? I reckon. Dad, I sense that you're a little shy here. Listen, these guys aren't scary. Are you scared? Nah, they're not scary. They just want to hear your story. Now listen, all you've got to do is you've just got to pretend that you are an artist. And you're going to paint with your words. You're not going to use computers. You're not going to use songs or anything like just your words. And your words are going to be paintbrushes. And you're going to paint colors. You're going to paint a picture in the minds of these kids. It's going to be a portrait they can hang up in their mind for the rest of their life. Don't he talk pretty? I think I will. I would like to tell you about a little bit about my story. Now, I was born and raised in the Ozarks, north of Missouri, and I was on a farm. There was nothing but horses in those days, horses and wagons and machinery. So I learned how to work with horses. Well, my papa had to move up to Hummiston, Iowa. Now, Missouri and Iowa are close together. So we had to move up to earn some more money. So we gave our horses and gave all our machinery to my favorite uncle. And then we moved on up to Hummiston. Now, my dad had a job there. Well, I hadn't had a job there. So what I did is I looked around for a job. I was about 18, 19, about this time. So I looked around and found a job on a ranch. So I began to work on the ranch and feeling kind of lonely because I didn't have any of my friends around. So all that went on for about the rest of the year. This was about 1939. And so I got this job. And then I was going to, my sister was going to get married. And they had bought a house and they had to put a lot of furniture in it. You know, in them days, you know what we used to do? We used to, before all the furniture got in the house, what we'd do is we'd have a big country dance. We'd invite everybody around. We'd go have a dance. And I stayed home that week and I wanted to do some dancing. Well, my sister was going to high school there and she had met a friend named Della. And so she brought her friend out to the dance that night. Oh, that friend was pretty. Oh my, she was pretty. And I found out she didn't know how to dance. So I said, okay, I'm going to teach you how to dance. And so we spent the rest of the evening, and I showed her how to do all kinds of dances. Oh, that was fun. I like that girl. And so I fell in love with her, and she kind of liked me too. So I get in my car, and I had a 1932 Chevy, that kind of a canvas top, tires were thin. I'd go to town and they'd blow out a tire 1 or 2 times. I'd have to go fix that. And so it was quite okay. I paid $110 for this car. Yeah, well, we're not talking about car. I love that car. Anyway, so I quickly figured out that the best way to see my new little sweetheart was to pick her up at church. Now, you see, I've never been to church in my life. Now, there was one time I went to church, because there's one thing called Memorial Day. We call it Decorating Day. So what we do is we come into the church, and we decorate all the graveyards, because all the graveyards are at the church. Sound kind of spooky, doesn't it? But all the graveyards are there, and so we come and decorate. That's the only time I was even close to the church all my life. I didn't know nothing. But I learned that if I could show up Sunday evening with my car, and I'd wait outside that church, then I could drive her home. I get to see her one more time. So I'd drive up in my car, and I'd wait outside those churches. Now it's kind of hot. Now we're talking about July, August, in Iowa, pretty muggy, hot, kind of like here, actually. So I'd drive up there, and I'd wait for her. Now, every night, they'd play a song. Just as I am. Just as I am, without one plea. Anybody heard that song? But that thy blood was shed for me. And I just love that song. Oh, it was pretty. That was a pretty sign. And in fact, I'd like to listen. I just come just to listen to that song. Just as I am. Well, anyway, I'd take my little sweetheart home, and we did this for nigh on to, I think it must have been almost 2 years. She and I would get together once a week, and I'd work. Well, she used to write to me, because I'd say I was gone for the week. I worked on a ranch, and so I was gone for the week, and the rancher's wife, every time there was a letter or some mail, she'd put it on my plate. We'd come in and eat at noontime. So all the hands would come in, and they'd sit down to eat. And one day I saw a letter there. I thought, it's from my sweetheart. Oh, I was grinning from ear to ear. So I opened that thing up and say, hi, honey, here I am. It wasn't that. It would say, Mr. Everett J. Dale, you will report to, you are drafted into the Army. And I just started shaking. Because I didn't want to go to the Army. I had a sweetheart now. And I had some money in my pocket. I'd get $3 every week. Man, I was in the ring. Now, I didn't want to go. My life was getting good. But I had to go. They gave me 60 days to get my stuff together. I sold my car. I got rid of my clothes. I did all that stuff, and I finally showed up. Well, there were so many men drafted then. Now, I don't know if you understand what this was. Let me check my notes here, make sure I'm not too far off. 1942. What happened in 1941, youngins? 1941. Pearl Harbor, man. Pearl Harbor. The Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor, and the United States, the sleeping giant, had entered the war. And now they're looking for men. We need men to fight. I was one of those they selected. So we went down and had our physical, and I passed with flying colors. And they said, okay, you're going to be trained for the Army. There's so many men coming in, they couldn't train us all. So they shipped me clear over to Panama. Now, you know, I'd never even seen the ocean in my whole life. I didn't know what the ocean looked like. And I got on that ship, and I started floating away, and I'd see the good old USA getting further and further and further away. I tell you, I'm scared. Well, we got down there, did some basic training, took about 6 weeks, you know, the kind where you crawl on your belly underneath machine gun fire. That kind of stuff, it was tough. Let me tell you. It was tough, but we got out of there and they sent me to the Galapagos Islands. Anybody heard of the Galapagos Islands? I guess it's not too far from here, I don't think. Well, it was a long way from where I come from. Well, it was scary. It was nothing but rock and sand. And I've never seen such a place like that. So they put me on a searchlight, and evidently what was going on is the Japanese was flying their planes over on certain missions, and we had to keep a big, huge flashlight. It's a big, huge torch, and it would go straight up into the air, and it would highlight those planes so we could shoot them down. So my job was to keep that flash, that big torchlight ready to go. I had to polish the mirrors, I had to keep the sandbags up, I had to make sure that flashlight was working. That was my job for a long time. Later on, they put me on a 155 howitzer. A little howitzer. It's a big old, there's sandbags all around. You walk in like this, there's sandbags all around. There's this big gun sitting right there in the middle. It took 2 men to lift up one bullet. The bullet was 2 feet long and heavy enough. It took 2 men to get it in there. One shot could sink a ship. It was a huge gun. And so I'd sit inside that little room with that gun, and I'd pull the trigger like that, and then I would turn over again, and I would close my ears, and that thing would just roll. One time, I left my leg sticking out the door by accident. It ripped my pants. The concussion, it ripped my pants. So that was a powerful gun. I'd come out of there shaking every day. I didn't like that. But anyway, I did those kind of things there for about a year and a half. Now, one of the things that I figured out, as I was from the farm, I'm half grizzly bear, I'm half mountain lion, I can spit farther, talk louder, anybody around. You, and above all, you never tell me I can't do nothing. Because I can. One day I was in my tent, and I was writing a letter to my sweetheart. And someone comes up, one of my commanding officers comes up and says, "Dale, get out there. You got to fill those sandbags. We got to get those sandbags picked up for that gun." And I said, "Not right now. I'm writing a letter." You know what that guy told me? He said, "You can't write the letter. You got to go out and fill the sandbags." I said, "You can't tell me. I can do that myself. You don't need me." And the guy said, "You couldn't do that by yourself." Nobody tells me what I can't do. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to do that by myself." The next 2 hours, I carried sandbags by myself on my bare back. And I was 10 minutes early, and I did it. Now, my back was blistered. I was burned. I couldn't walk for a week, but I did it. About a week later, I was in my tent. About as dark as it ever gets there, you can still read in the newspaper at midnight. It doesn't get very dark, it's only shining. Kind of a weird country. And I was sitting there, and something hit me. I was alone. I was in that tent. I was in a war where people wanted to kill me, and I was trying to kill others. And suddenly I had the biggest, deepest, emptiest, loneliness feeling I ever had in my life. It was so awful, I didn't know what to do. And then the thought occurred to me, I could die. I could die tomorrow. That bullet would be meant for me. I turned over in my pillow and I started to cry. And I called out to God. I didn't know who God was. I went to the church. All I knew was a little bit what my little devil told me. So I just called out to God. I said, "God, I need you. I don't want to die. I don't want to go to hell. Because I knew my life was sinful. I don't belong in heaven. I knew that." Well, the next day was Sunday, and I said, "Okay, my grandpa, I'm going to go to church." Now, the church is way over on the other side of the island. They had buses that would take me over. And so what I do is I go over there, and I went to church, and there was like 300 men. And I said, "Well, I don't know if I can do this, but I'd like to go ask that pastor." Well, just about that time, guess what song they started to play? just as I am, without one plea. But that thy blood was shed for me. And so I said, I gotta go. I think I stepped on 3 people's toes trying to get out of there. I virtually ran down to the mill to see. And I talked to that pastor. I said, I need Jesus. I need Jesus. I'm afraid of God. And the pastor, praise God, that pastor knew Jesus. He was a born-again believer. And so he showed me the gospel. He showed me that Jesus Christ had paid the penalty. I didn't have to worry about that. All I got to do is receive Christ. Repent from my sins. Just turn to Christ. You know, I did that. I did that with my whole heart. Now, that came in very heavy in my mind for the rest of the war. And so he took me out to the Pacific Ocean, and he put me clear up to my neck, and he dumped me under the water. I think they call that baptism. And I was baptized. Praise God. Well, the war got hotter and hotter. And they needed good men on the front line. So they took all us guys out of Galapagos Islands, gave us some more training, combat training. I can kill a man in 3 ways with my bare hands. Hope I never have to. But they trained me in combat training. And I went from there. They said, okay, now you're going to go to the front lines. Now, before I did that, they gave me a 21-day leave. I better throw this in because I come back to my little sweetheart, 21 days, and I come back, first thing I want to do is see my little girl, right? And so we got to talking, should we get married? And she said, let's get married. And I said, that's not fair. We can get married, and the next day I get shot in the head. Now what? And she said, I don't care. I love you. So we got married. We went on a road, an old barren road, and the preacher got out and said, if you do, you are, and we're married. And then I was whisked off to the front lines. I went to Germany. They put us on a troop ship. It was surrounded by 4 cruisers, an aircraft carrier, 4 submarines, 2 battleships. We were protected to the hilt. We had thousands of men on those 3 troop ships. And they delivered us over to France, Marseille, France, which is down in the southern part of France. Now, what had happened earlier, about 6 months earlier, was June 6th, D-Day. We had invaded the mainland. The troops had invaded. And we had been stopped on the Rhine River. And so we were going to come up. I was part of did you see the rainbow this morning? I was part of the 142nd Rainbow Division. They call us the Rainbow Division. And all us guys were put in Marseille, France, and we were to march up. We marched up. I tell you, they said, when that ship hits beach, you run. No problem. 40-pound backpack, I ran like a jackrabbit. People shooting at us. And I ran, and a lot of men didn't make it. A lot of men were cut down right on the beach. But somehow I made it. And I made it in the snow. That was the coldest winter on record in Europe. Was that winter. This is about November, December. We're talking pretty cold. And then what happens is we start to get on a train and head up to Strasbourg. Strasbourg is a city right on the Rhine River in France. And we got on that train, and the Luftwaffe, what's the Luftwaffe? The German Air Force came down and strafed this train. They wanted to kill all of us. I saw what had happened to a lot of the train cars. A lot of the men didn't make it. They were blown up. Somehow I did. But some of us men made it. We made it up to Strasbourg, and we were stationed on the Rhine River, and our job was to report any German activity. We are now on the front lines. I was there for 2 weeks. I was tired. I was fatigued. I was cold. I was hungry. And then they gave us a break. So they pulled us back and put some more men up in front and said, pull us back. I was only there about a week, Christmas time. Little did I know that up north was raging a big war, Battle of the Bulge. Hitler wanted to make his last push, and he was at the end. He was running out of gas, he was running out of men, and he's going to make his last push. So he puts together a big Panzer division, these big Tiger tanks that could blow any one of our tanks off with one shot. It was a huge. You ought to read about it. It's huge. Anyway, they were